When Lily Evans and I were sitting at the Civil Affairs Bureau to get our marriage certificate, she was called away by a phone call. She only said, "I have something urgent to do now, let's get the certificate another day," and left in a hurry, abandoning me alone in the registration office where couples were happily tying the knot. It turned out her lover had fallen down the stairs and sprained his ankle. Not long after, she sent another message saying, "Ethan Brooks's problem is a bit serious, I have to accompany him, let's reschedule tomorrow's wedding." I don't even know how many times Lily Evans has abandoned me for Ethan Brooks. This time, however, I didn't get jealous like before, nor did I make a fuss and then cave in. The staff looked at me sympathetically and asked, "Sir, are you still going to process it?" I took out my phone and sent a message to the woman who owed me a promise. I had to try. I sat on a lounge chair in the lobby, staring at my phone screen that now read, "Wait for me, I'll be there in 20 minutes. Just then, my mother called and said, "James Carter and Lily Evans have got their marriage certificate, right? Come to the Seaside Grand Hotel, both families are having dinner together." Even hearing that, I remained oddly calm. "Mom, we haven't gotten the certificate. Ethan Brooks sprained his ankle, and she went to the hospital to be with him." I wasn't particularly upset, this sort of thing had happened so many times that I'd grown numb. But my mother was furious. She'd been a titan in the business world for decades and rarely lost her temper, but this time was different. She had invited important family friends, carefully arranged everything, and now it was all in jeopardy. If word got out, it would be humiliating. She paused, remembering how I'd compromised repeatedly over the years, and then she sighed. "James Carter, what do you want? Mom respects your decision." That simple sentence broke my carefully maintained composure, and I ended the call. Over the years, I'd done so many foolish things for Lily Evans, abandoned my principles, swallowed my pride. We met in university, got to know each other, fell in love. It was a perfect college romance. After graduation, since both our families were locals, engagement discussions started naturally. Everything was smooth, I thought I was the happiest man alive. Until Ethan Brooks showed up. One day after our engagement, we had plans to watch a film, but as soon as we met, she was whisked away by a call. From that day forward, her disappearing acts became routine. She explained that her childhood friend, Ethan, had returned to the country, alone and orphaned after his parents died in an accident and his family went bankrupt. He was pitiable, she said. Her parents had treated him well, so she couldn't just abandon him. And so began the slow erosion of our time together. She loved Lego, so I bought her a rare limited edition set, spent over 2 weeks building it, then gave it to her with a full heart. Her joy made me happy until Ethan Brooks said he liked it too. He smiled and asked for it. Though she hesitated, she still gave it to him. When I found out, I was gutted. She later told me he was just a friend, and she didn't want to upset him. "Don't overthink it," she said. "I'll build another one for you someday." I let it slide. She was kind and thoughtful to everyone. About 6 months after our engagement, we went hiking with friends. Ethan was there, too. I'd met him before, but that day, I understood his intentions. Halfway up the trail, he and I lagged behind. Then, suddenly, he bumped into me deliberately, I think, and we both fell. I couldn't move my arm, the pain was unbearable. I looked at him, confused and furious, and he leaned close to whisper, "Brother James Carter, if I say you pushed me, who do you think Sister Lily Evans will believe? Who do you think she'll help first, more you?" Moments later, Lily and the others rushed over. Ethan was already crying softly. Brother James must have been tired from climbing. He probably didn't mean to push me. He looked at me with those wide, innocent eyes. I tried to explain, but when I looked at Lily, she was already frozen in disbelief. "James Carter, don't be unreasonable," she snapped. Of course, since I'd argued with her twice before over Ethan, I was the villain now. Unreasonable, I never imagined that insult would be used on me. I watched her carry Ethan away while the others hesitated. A few friends comforted me, "James, we believe you. Don't be upset." Lily was just shocked by Ethan's injuries. My hands were bleeding. I shook my head and told them to keep climbing. I made my way down alone. Someone offered to come with me, but I declined. I didn't want to ruin their day. No one knew my arm was dislocated. I endured the pain, called for an ambulance, and collapsed while waiting. Just before I lost consciousness, I heard a panicked voice, "James Carter, James Carter." I looked up, dazed, and saw the woman in front of me, Lauren Mitchell, head of the Mitchell Group. Her parents had died young, but she took over their company and built it into a juggernaut. She was a legend in our elite circles. We met by chance after high school, when I visited my grandmother. I saved her from an accident and stayed by her side during recovery. Before she left, she gave me her contact details and promised to grant one request from me no matter what. Our families stayed in touch, we often crossed paths and grew close. When did we become strangers? Probably around the time I told everyone I was with Lily Evans. I hadn't seen Lauren in 2 or 3 years. When I messaged her just now, I was nervous. After all, she had an unpredictable temperament and a proud demeanor, but looking across the entire social circle, she was the only person I could think of. The Evans family held considerable influence, and no other woman would dare to marry me in such a situation. I wasn't even sure if she still had the same number or remembered the promise she once made. So now, staring at this elegant and aloof woman standing in front of me in a tailored dress, clearly having rushed over from a formal business event, I felt my eyes sting with emotion. Then I heard Lauren Mitchell sigh gently, "What's wrong? Didn't you call me here to get the marriage certificate? Are you regretting it now?" I shook my head and took her by the hand into the registry office. To the staff's surprise, I submitted the documents, and within just over 10 minutes, the paperwork was complete. It turned out that getting married could be so swift. In that same span of time, Lily Evans had chosen not to wait with me, or perhaps she couldn't let her precious Ethan Brooks wait. As I stood outside my house with the crimson certificate in hand, I took a long breath. Lauren had left in a hurry, saying she had to attend a government bidding session and couldn't afford to miss it. Before leaving, she simply looked at me and said, "Don't worry. Tomorrow's wedding will go ahead as planned." I nodded. I had already told her everything in my message. Just as I was about to call for the driver, my phone rang. It was Lily Evans. Her usual soft voice greeted me, "James Carter, I'm sorry." I thought, for a brief second, that she was apologizing for abandoning me at the Civil Affairs Bureau and canceling the wedding. But before I could respond, Ethan Brooks's voice echoed through the phone, "James Carter, I'm sorry. I accidentally ruined the suit you were going to wear for the wedding. I'm really sorry, brother." Then came Lily's voice, gently coaxing him, "It's all right. Don't cry. James Carter isn't the type to get upset over something like that." She added, "Anyway, the wedding's cancelled. I'll go with you to pick out another suit later." I couldn't find the strength to answer. I was exhausted mentally and emotionally. I didn't ask why the two of them were in the bridal suite, where my clothes were stored, instead of the hospital. I didn't ask if she remembered that we had designed that wedding suit together in university, a suit that had held so much meaning. There was no point in asking anything anymore. I was married now, wasn't I? I won't deny that the time I spent with Lily Evans had been joyful, especially during our college years, and I know she had once been sincere with me. Her eyes never lied. But that sincerity had never been mine alone. After Ethan Brooks returned, I was no longer her favorite. I still remember one party where I got a little drunk, not being good with alcohol. I stepped out for a moment and returned just in time to hear Ethan, tipsy and bold, slur out, "Sister Lily Evans, I'll only marry you in this lifetime." The room fell awkwardly silent. Everyone there knew she was engaged to me. Someone tried to break the tension with a joke, but I stood by the door, holding my breath, waiting for her response. In the end, all I got was her soft voice saying, "I'm going to get some sobering soup. Ethan Brooks will have a headache soon, please take care of him." I can't even describe what I felt in that moment. Disappointment. Emptiness. It no longer matters. I'd been spoiled since childhood, but all the heartbreak I'd experienced in my life came from Lily Evans. I had compromised so many times, forgiven things I shouldn't have, because I'd loved her. But now, I realized I must have been insane. This wasn't love that belonged solely to me. This wasn't devotion marked by unwavering preference. I didn't want it anymore. It was all right. Since it was already broken, I would stop trying to fix it. Let it go. Hearing the detached flatness in my tone, Lily Evans was stunned. She had expected anger, jealousy, maybe even a final plea. But there was nothing. She should have felt relieved. Instead, an inexplicable panic rose in her chest. "Is there anything else?" I asked, not wanting to drag the call any longer. She opened her mouth but, in the end, said nothing. Just as I was about to hang up, I heard Ethan Brooks's faint voice in the background, "Sister Lily Evans, shall I help pack up your clothes?" I ended the call without a word. Lily quickly glanced at her phone, saw the disconnected screen, and her heart dropped. She turned to Ethan with a displeased expression. "No need to pack my clothes for me. I'll send them to you myself. Once you're settled, I'll visit again." Ethan looked immediately aggrieved. "Sister Lily Evans, I only have you. Are you really going to leave me behind?" Her eyes softened a little. "I won't abandon you, but you have to learn to be independent, Ethan. I'll bring your things. I'm getting married too. If it weren't for your emergency, your brother-in-law would have been introduced to you tomorrow." A trace of sorrow flashed across Ethan's face, but he quickly masked it with resolve. Back at my house, a sleek Maybach pulled up. I instinctively stepped aside. A man in his 40s stepped out and approached with a polite smile. "Are you Mr. James?" I nodded. It turned out he was the driver Lauren Mitchell had sent to take me home. I couldn't help but smile faintly. Maybe this marriage wasn't such a bad thing after all. When I stepped inside, my mother greeted me with her usual blend of relief and scolding. She grew more animated by the second until I pulled out the still-warm marriage certificate, which immediately calmed her down. My father, seated by the piano, gave me a thumbs up. I straightened my back with pride. "Weren't you just talking about the one from the Evans family who left?" My mother stopped mid-sentence, her eyes widening as she looked at the marriage certificate, then at me, and finally at my father. Her astonishment was mirrored by him. I calmly sat down on the sofa and asked my aunt to bring me a glass of lemonade. My parents sat beside me, cautiously curious. "What's going on?" my mother asked. I gave a nod. "Mum, Dad, I'm not marrying Lily Evans. I'm done chasing her, done getting jealous or losing my temper over her." They were momentarily stunned. Then I noticed a faint smile creeping onto their faces. "You've come to your senses," my father said. I nodded solemnly. "Yes. I've already registered my marriage with Lauren Mitchell." His face lit up with unfiltered joy. "Should have done that a long time ago," he said. "Lily Evans is nothing but a pretty face. She's all charm and no substance. Ivy never liked her." My mum waved the certificate in her hand. "But, son, what about tomorrow's wedding?" I looked up at her and said, "Tomorrow's wedding will go on as planned. We still had to get married." The Carter family had been in business for over a century, and I couldn't allow that legacy to collapse in my hands. After graduation, I hadn't joined the company right away. It was humiliating enough that I'd spent so long lowering myself, chasing after Lily Evans, getting jealous, arguing only to end up here. After dinner, I quietly sorted through the betrothal gifts sent by the Evans family. Lily had placed great importance on our wedding. Every item in the gift set had been chosen with care. She was so attentive, so precise, and yet, in the end, she still abandoned me for Ethan Brooks. My phone rang. I glanced at the screen. It was Lily Evans. October nights were already turning cold, the sky above dotted with stars. A breeze swept through the courtyard, carrying the faint scent of flowers and green foliage. I opened the gate and saw her standing there beneath the streetlight, just as she had looked the first time I met her, gentle, clean, with a soft brilliance in her eyes that lit up the moment she saw me. She really was beautiful. I sighed inwardly. No wonder I had loved her for so many years. "James Carter, have you eaten?" I nodded. "Is there a reason you're here?" Lily glanced at my face. "James Carter, I'm sorry about today. I broke the appointment." I replied flatly, "It's fine. I'm used to it." She had felt uneasy ever since I hung up earlier that afternoon, an unfamiliar emptiness gnawing at her, compelling her to see me before flying to North America. But now, facing my calm, detached demeanor, she couldn't tell whether everything was all right or completely shattered. "James Carter," she asked hesitantly, "are you angry? Angry that I left you at the Civil Affairs Bureau, angry that I postponed the wedding?" Of course she knew I'd be angry, yet she'd done it anyway. Why? Probably because I always forgave her. Every time she ditched me for Ethan Brooks, I got upset, made a scene, but always relented because I loved her deeply. Lily Evans knew how much I loved her. That's why she had always acted so fearlessly when favored. But she never offered that same favor in return. Seeing the coldness settle across my face, Lily assumed I was merely upset. And in her eyes, that was good, at least I still cared. A hint of relief surfaced, even a touch of secret satisfaction. She thought she just needed to explain and everything would go back to how it was. She reached out to ruffle my hair, fingers brushing my temple before I pulled away. "James Carter," she said, "Ethan's ankle is badly injured. He needs urgent surgery in North America within 48 hours, or he'll have lifelong complications. That's why I want to accompany him." A flicker of derision passed through my eyes. "What? There are no assistants? No nurses? No family members left on this earth? You're the only person capable of going? And what about the weddings arranged by both our families? Though those mean nothing." Disapproval glinted in her gaze. "James Carter, you're the only one I care about. Don't overreact. I treat him like a younger brother. He's all alone in a foreign country. I just want to make sure he's safe. I'll come back right after he's settled. When I do, I'll give you an even grander wedding." I wanted to ask her if she'd still feel this way if she knew the wedding date had been postponed for Ethan Brooks, but before I could speak, her phone rang. It was Ethan's custom ringtone. He'd once smugly told me that he'd set it himself. When Lily heard it back then, she'd said, "He set that up when he borrowed my phone in high school. Why don't you set one too? Then I'd always know when it's you." At the time, I laughed it off. But in her world, Ethan could touch her phone freely. Ethan was always the exception. I never had that privilege. I never was the one. And now, thinking about it, I couldn't help but feel ridiculous, like I had been the third wheel all along. Despite everything, my heart still stuttered the moment I saw her again tonight. Now, though, I stood silent as she picked up the call. I could hear Ethan's whining tone on the other end. "Sister Lily Evans, where are you? The plane is boarding." Lily's voice softened instantly. "Ethan, be good. Sit still and be careful with your foot. I'll be there soon." She cajoled him for a while, then hung up and glanced at me awkwardly. She checked the time. "I have to go," she said hurriedly. I looked at her, anxious yet not really apologetic, and said, "Lily Evans, I've already," but before I could finish, a car horn blared from the street. She exhaled a breath of relief, stepped forward, and hugged me tightly. "James Carter, wait for me. Wait for me to marry you," she whispered, then turned and left. I didn't say another word. There was no future left to talk about. From the back seat of the car, she looked out at me standing beneath the lamplight alone. Her chest ached, an unexpected surge of panic gripping her. She wanted to get out, hold me tight, say she wasn't going to North America. But just as she opened her mouth, her phone rang again. It was Ethan Brooks. She went quiet. Meanwhile, the wedding was about to begin. I stood in front of the mirror, adjusting my ceremonial robes, staring absently at my reflection. Unlike the Western-style wedding Lily had once planned, today's was a traditional Chinese wedding, an idea Lauren Mitchell had proposed the night before. Watching Lily leave without looking back had hurt, yes, but more than that, it left me relieved. It was always going to be like this. I would never be her choice. And now, I had let go. Just as I was turning to leave, a line of cars pulled up at the end of the road. One by one, they approached, and then Lauren Mitchell stepped out, followed by a group of people carrying ornate packages. For a moment, I felt uncertain, guilty, even. Had she seen Lily Evans earlier? Did she know what happened? Why was she here so early? I opened my mouth to greet her, but she beat me to it with a calm, confident voice. Just came down for a walk. Why are you standing there? I smiled awkwardly. What's all this? She replied casually, betrothal gifts. I blinked, slightly slow to process. Then I heard my mother's voice from inside. Lauren Mitchell's here. Why is James Carter standing around like a statue? Bring her in. A little dazed, I led Lauren into the house. Sitting on the sofa, watching her chat effortlessly with my parents, I suddenly felt that this world might still have a little magic in it. The noise outside pulled me from my thoughts. The time was nearly up. I adjusted my cuffs, steadied my breath, and began walking slowly toward the entrance. Just beyond the door, I could already hear whispers and murmurs floating in from the crowd. Who in our circle doesn't know Ethan Brooks likes Lily Evans? Someone scoffed. All this commotion, clearly, they don't want her to marry James Carter. Another chimed in, I heard she followed Ethan to North America. He just sprained his ankle, and she flew with him immediately. It's obvious she treasures him like he's made of glass. The voices swelled with judgment, amusement, curiosity. Even with the bride gone, the wedding was only postponed, not cancelled outright. But anyone with eyes can see this is just buying time before the engagement is broken. I heard someone else mutter, James Carter isn't much better. They've been together for years, and he still can't get her to come back and act like nothing's wrong. Didn't he used to be the most arrogant guy in our circle? Then a scoff, what now? His reputation's gone. After this, who'll still want to marry him? The Evans family called me yesterday to cancel the wedding, then the Carter family called later saying it would still go ahead. What are they playing at, Family Feud or theater? Another laughed, doesn't matter. I cleared my schedule, so I came to see the drama. I had to admit they were sharp. And they were right. Lily Evans would never care about the humiliation I felt, postponing our wedding for Ethan Brooks, exposing me to public ridicule in a circle that feeds on scandal. Time was up. I pushed the door open and stepped into the corridor. A few of those gossips turned mid-sentence and froze when they saw me. They didn't realize it was the dressing room. Flustered, they stammered, congratulations, one after another. I smiled faintly. Thank you all so much, I said with quiet irony. In that moment, I understood I was nothing more than a clown in their eyes. None of them even knew the bride had changed. They hadn't come to celebrate, they came to watch me fall. But then Lauren Mitchell appeared at the end of the aisle in her wedding dress. The atmosphere shifted. Gasps swept through the crowd. Silence fell for a moment before a stunned murmur rippled through. And then, with poised dignity, I heard her cool, steady voice cut through the chatter. From the very beginning, the people getting married today were Lauren Mitchell and James Carter. Is that clear? Her words landed with weight. One by one, the guests recovered and offered their congratulations. The ceremony proceeded smoothly. October 20th date was one Lily Evans and I had picked together. I'd once believed it would be the happiest day of our lives. But today, Lily Evans, I'm getting married and the bride is not you. As I stood beside Lauren Mitchell, accepting blessings, I glanced at her and realized she had also found a husband worth having. After the ceremony, I went backstage to change into the formal toast attire. From then on, it was a blur of socializing and rituals. I hadn't drunk much, but even so, I felt tipsy. The moment the banquet ended, Lauren Mitchell was practically leaning against me for support. I helped her back to the room, not thinking about anything in particular, only feeling bone-deep exhaustion. I took a long shower and collapsed onto the bed, too tired to move. Who would have thought that getting married could be this draining? Then the bathroom door creaked open. Lauren stepped out wearing a pale nightgown, hair still damp, skin glowing from the steam. I sat up instinctively, suddenly remembering I wasn't alone tonight. This was our wedding night. My ears burned at the thought. She walked toward me slowly. I didn't dare meet her gaze. My fingers dug nervously into the bedsheets. She drew close, so close I could feel her breath against my cheek, then chuckled softly. I glanced up, startled, and saw her amused eyes locked on mine. Flustered, I looked away. Without a word, she circled the bed and settled on the other side. "We married in a hurry," she said calmly. "I know you're not ready. It's all right. I won't rush you. I won't regret this. Take your time." I nodded, something knotting painfully in my chest. She knew everything about Lily Evans, about the mess I'd come from. And yet, she was still here. For a moment, I felt a strange wave of vulnerability, a quiet sort of grief I hadn't expected. I didn't know if I would regret marrying her like this someday. But tonight, lying beside her, I felt peaceful. Even though we were strangers sharing a bed, I fell asleep faster than I had in weeks. When I woke the next morning, still groggy, I reached instinctively for the pillow beside me. Something felt off. The texture wasn't right. As my mind sharpened, I froze, then slowly pulled my arm back. Looking up, I found a pair of deep, intelligent eyes watching me with quiet amusement. My face heated instantly. "I'm sorry. I don't sleep well," I mumbled. Lauren just laughed. "It's all right. No need to apologize. We're husband and wife." After we freshened up, she turned to me and said, "Let's go have a look at our wedding room." I didn't think much of it and followed her. What I found surprised me. Our new home was right next to my parents' house. I couldn't help but feel a surge of joy. I wandered around the living room like a curious child, wanting to memorize every corner. Lauren sat on the sofa, watching me with a gentle smile. I had thought I'd be heartbroken for a long time after letting go of Lily Evans, but the truth was different. That love had already worn thin. Letting go left behind only melancholy and relief. A week passed. Lily Evans hadn't reached out once. I was disappointed, if I'm honest. Did she care about me at all? Her world revolved around Ethan Brooks. If I hadn't married Lauren, how miserable would I have been this week? I couldn't even imagine the rumors that would have devoured me. "Lily Evans, I won't wait for you anymore." But even that faint disappointment didn't dampen my mood. Watching Lauren walk toward me, her steps graceful and sure, I smiled without bitterness. I had someone to cherish now. This was my life. And to my surprise, Lauren Mitchell was good to me. Far beyond what I'd expected. In my mind, she had agreed to this marriage merely to keep her word. Rumor had it she had no one in her heart. That was why I dared to make my proposal. But her quiet tenderness made me wonder, was it possible she actually liked me? I found myself watching her one afternoon as she worked in her study. I stood in the doorway and called her name. "Lauren Mitchell." She looked up. "What is it?" I hesitated. "Did you agree to marry me just to fulfill your promise, or?" I couldn't bring myself to finish the question. Asking whether she liked me felt childish risky. I laughed it off. "Nothing. Never mind. Carry on." Maybe she was just being kind out of respect for her husband. No need to overthink. I turned to leave. But before I reached the door, I felt a pair of arms wrap around me from behind. A soft sigh brushed against my shoulder. "James Carter," she murmured. I thought I was being obvious. I stood frozen. My throat tightened. Was it what I thought? My voice trembled as I asked, "What do you mean?" She rested her chin against my back and whispered, "I like you." I've liked you for a long time. Because our new home was so close to my parents, Lauren and I often went over for meals. My father wasn't just a renowned pianist, was also a fantastic cook. He loved to show off in front of me, always bragging that it was his music and culinary skills that had won over my mother, the proud, untouchable red rose of our city. She used to be cold to everyone, but somehow, he had cracked the code. I used to envy that story. My eyes sparkled just hearing it, and Lauren Mitchell noticed. She leaned closer and whispered in my ear, "If you like it, I'll cook for you too." My face flushed crimson immediately, especially when I caught my parents grinning from across the table with teasing glints in their eyes. Who said I liked it? Since the day Lauren confessed her feelings, our relationship had grown visibly closer. It was only then that I learned she'd fallen for me at first sight and had kept that feeling quietly in her heart for years. I was secretly elated. I even boasted to my mother. She rolled her eyes and said, "We knew ages ago. After you saved her, she kept coming around. At first, your father and I thought it was out of gratitude, but the more she came, the clearer it became. The way she looked at you was impossible to miss. And when she realized we'd caught on, she confessed. She said you were still young, just started university, and hadn't figured things out. But we were happy to see it. She's from a good family, only 6 years older, and you'd be head of the household. No messy relatives either." Then her tone soured slightly. "But all that went to waste when you suddenly got together with Lily Evans in your sophomore year. Your father and I were both furious and embarrassed. After you announced your relationship, Lauren came over one last time. She said that since you already had someone you loved, she wouldn't interfere. She wouldn't come around anymore, but she'd still send you gifts, quietly. She never tried to compete. And you used to brag that it was such a pure friendship, that kind of devotion. But James, your father, and I never liked Lily Evans. Aside from her pretty face, what else did she have? She was indecisive, easy to sway, with complicated family baggage. The only thing she had going for her was being gentle with you, and even that she's failed to uphold. Look what she did, postpone the wedding just like that, all for her precious childhood sweetheart." My mother's voice was rising, her emotions bubbling over, and I realized why my parents had been so calm when I came home with a marriage certificate signed with Lauren Mitchell's name. They already knew. They were familiar with her, fond of her. But somehow, this was now turning into a lecture directed squarely at me. Just as my mother was about to explode completely, I pointed abruptly toward the doorway. "Lauren Mitchell." It worked. She froze mid-sentence. I seized the chance and darted out of the room. The hall was empty, so I stepped outside. I spotted Lauren and my father seated in the garden pavilion, chatting over tea. Without saying anything, I walked up, reached for her hand, and gently pulled her up. She didn't understand but stood without resistance, casting a curious look back at my father, who simply waved us off. Lauren followed me. I wrapped my arm around hers, and she must have noticed the heaviness in my expression. "What's wrong?" she asked softly, leaning into me. I shook my head, unsure how to explain. She slid an arm around my waist. I was just starting to relax when an angry voice sliced through the air. "What are you doing?" I turned, and there she was, Lily Evans, disheveled, face flushed, dust clinging to her coat. Her gaze locked on Lauren's hand resting on my side, and for a second, it looked like she'd combust on the spot. I said nothing. Her eyes were red, and Ethan Brooks stood behind her, frail and deliberate, like a porcelain doll waiting for rescue. Lauren tightened her hold on me and looked at the pair coldly, the trace of a smirk on her lips. "What I do has nothing to do with Miss Lily, does it?" Lily stormed forward and reached for my hand as if to pull me aside, but Lauren shifted swiftly, turning me away and releasing her hold. Lily's hands trembled. She stepped in front of me. "James Carter, don't be scared. I'm here." Her voice was gentle, but the strain showed. "James Carter is my fiancé." "Miss Lauren, you're hugging my fiancé. Shouldn't you give me an explanation?" For a moment, the roles were reversed. She was standing before me like I once stood before her hoping, pleading. But I remembered how, time and time again, when we argued over Ethan Brooks, she had turned on me with sharp words and cold stares. James Carter, stop making a fuss. James Carter, apologize to him. James Carter, why can't you just understand? And now, Lauren's eyes narrowed, her voice turning crisp and cutting. Miss Lily, do you want an explanation from me? Maybe you should start by explaining yourself. You let others take care of your precious sweetheart. You left your fiancé humiliated in front of our entire social circle. You followed Ethan Brooks to North America right before the wedding, abandoned James, and now you come back dragging him with you, and for what? Lily froze, her lips parting without sound. She turned to me, grabbing my hand tightly. James Carter, it's not like that. To have my reasons. I can explain, but Lauren pulled my hand away and stood between us. Miss Lily, she said firmly, please have some self-respect. Don't interfere with my husband. Lily's eyes widened, disbelief washing over her face. Your husband? Impossible. James Carter is my fiancé. We had everything prepared. Her voice cracked, and she turned to me with bloodshot eyes, lips trembling as she searched for the truth. I didn't say anything at first. She was waiting for my denial for me to reject Lauren's words. But I didn't. I walked toward Lauren, stood beside her, and took her hand. I've already married her. I am her husband. Lily didn't move. She stood frozen for what felt like forever, then stumbled slightly. Ethan Brooks reached to support her, and she murmured, Brother James Carter, you really moved on that quickly? I didn't bother looking at him. His words were meant to sting, but Lauren's glance cut sharper than mine ever could. He fell silent instantly. Lily shoved his hand away and pieced things together. So the wedding wasn't cancelled, just the bride changed. James Carter, you married her at our wedding? Her voice was shaking. I looked at her, calm and composed. Yes. I got married while you were in North America with Ethan Brooks. We didn't speak for an entire week. If you'd reached out to anyone, you would have known. If you'd cared even a little, you would have realized. But you didn't. You were across the ocean, doting on your sweetheart. Now you're surprised. She stood in silence, her face pale. I could see the pain rip through her as if someone had taken a knife to her chest. She whispered, almost to herself, I lost my phone right after we arrived in North America. She didn't get a new phone because she'd left in such a hurry. She'd borrowed a local one overseas, but every time she wanted to call me, something got in the way. She knew I'd be angry, furious, even, but she convinced herself that once she helped Ethan Brooks recover, she'd return and give me a grander wedding than the one we planned. She told herself she owed it to Medhat she'd treat me twice as well from then on. She'd distance herself from Ethan, give him a bit of money to repay his late parents' kindness, and finally put all of this behind us. Because James Carter liked her so much, how could she let me wait any longer? But all of that was in her mind. In reality, she was too late. She'd rushed back without adjusting to the jet lag, collapsed the moment she landed, and was carried off by the Evans family driver, who must have been waiting nearby. I didn't turn back. I held Lauren Mitchell's hand and walked into the house. Well, she said with a smile in her smooth, magnetic voice, this is the first time you've taken the initiative to hold my hand. My ears flushed instantly. What? I can't hold your hand. I grumbled, trying to sound unaffected. Her laughter deepened, laced with fondness. You can. In fact, I'll only ever let you hold it. At home, I brought up what my mother had told me. Lauren nodded and said, at the time, I kept thinking, I've been circling around you for almost a year. If you still didn't like me, maybe you never would. I shook my head quickly. No, I just didn't dare think about you that way. You were this unattainable big shot. I didn't think you'd ever like someone like me. She smiled softly. It's fine. As long as you don't hate me. We've got time. We'll take it slow. That same day, I learned something else when I was injured during that hike with Lily Evans and Ethan Brooks. The person who found and rescued me at the foot of the mountain was Lauren Mitchell. She never said a word. She saved me and disappeared like it meant nothing. It was only later that a friend let it slip. A few days passed, and I heard from our housekeeper that Lily Evans had been running a fever and was now in hospital. I figured I wouldn't see her again, at least, not for a while, until the servant came to me and said someone had been standing outside the house for a long time, asking to see me. I nodded. Let her in. We need to talk. She looked terrible, cheeks flushed from the fever, lips dry and cracked. I gestured for her to sit. Do you have something to say? Lily licked her lips nervously. James Carter, please listen. I don't like Ethan Brooks. I looked after him because his parents were good to me. He's alone now, and I've always just treated him like a younger brother. It's you I like. It's always been you. I sighed and poured her a glass of water. Lily Evans. A gentleman judges by deeds, not intentions. It was you who broke off the engagement. You left me humiliated in front of everyone. You flew to North America with Ethan Brooks. You scolded me and demanded I apologize without even knowing what really happened when he and I argued. And if you don't believe that, remember the hike. It was you who believed him over me. You who walked away. And now, you just show up like none of that mattered. Did you think about what this would mean for me? If Lauren Mitchell were the jealous type, my life would be miserable right now. Do you realize that? Lily went still. I'm sorry, she whispered. I just wanted to see you. Then, after a pause, her voice cracked. She's not right for you. Divorce her. Marry me instead. Please, James Carter. I stared at her in disbelief. Are you hearing yourself? I'm married now. I'm living a good life. I won't get divorced. Lily muttered, almost to herself, if I hadn't left, you would be my husband, mine. I stood up. Marriage isn't a game, Lily. Leave. Just let it end here. But she wouldn't. Her tone turned sharp, bitter. And Lauren Mitchell, is she perfect then? You believe her over me? I looked her dead in the eye. Whether I believe her or not, one thing's certain, I will never believe you again. Since the day Ethan Brooks returned, you've never chosen me. Not once. Not when it mattered. Not in public, not in private. I was always second. Placido, your time, your attention, your promises, even our wedding. Even the dress we designed together. Even your heart. You say it's all in the past, but I still feel it. I still remember being ignored. Abandoned. So many times that I started getting used to it. So Lily Evans, go back to Ethan Brooks. Go back to whoever you want. Just don't come to me. She left, and I didn't look back. That night, when Lauren returned home, I told her everything. She listened in silence, her face unreadable. Then she simply hummed in response. I blinked, surprised. That's it? She caught my expression and smiled faintly. James Carter, I know you. When you messaged me to register our marriage, I knew you'd already let her go. You would never go back. I was stunned, then I laughed. Really? But Miss Lauren, you had the marriage documents upside down that day. Her eyes widened slightly, then she smiled and turned the papers right side up. We laughed together. A few days later, I went shopping with my mother, and while browsing clothes, we ran into an old family acquaintance. The woman pulled my mother aside, lowering her voice to a conspiratorial whisper. Did you hear? After Lily Evans recovered, she locked herself in her room and started drinking non-stop. Wouldn't even open the door. Then someone sent her a recording. Ethan Brooks wasn't actually injured. He faked the entire thing. Bribed the hospital. She confronted him. It got ugly. She cut off all financial support, and now he's banned from everything. No degree, no job. Can't even pay rent. Apparently, Lily's grandfather was furious. Said she was hot-tempered, short-sighted, and had embarrassed the family. He sent her to a remote city to work at a subsidiary branch out of sight, out of power. She wouldn't be competing for anything again. I didn't expect to see her anymore. But life is strange. We met Ogden at a banquet. Lauren and I attended together. The room was thick with politics and hidden agendas. Lauren was surrounded by people, deep in conversation, and I quietly slipped outside for some fresh air. Not long after, I saw Lily Evans standing beside me. She looked thinner, her figure more fragile than I remembered, her complexion pale and weary. There was something hollow in her eyes. "James Carter," she said softly, her voice hoarse, "I'm leaving in the next couple of days. I came here tonight just to see you one more time. I just wanted to know that everything's okay." Her eyes were red, brimming with unshed tears. "I've thought a lot these past few weeks. I've made so many mistakes, caused you so much pain. I'm sorry, James Carter. I really am." I nodded. "It's all in the past now. Are you finished?" She bit her lip, nodded slowly. "Yeah," her voice broke. Silence settled between us like a thick fog. Back in university, we could talk about anything and everything. After graduation, during those brief, precious moments we had alone, I was the one doing all the talking while she just smiled and listened. And now? Now neither of us had anything left to say. In the end, we were simply silent. I turned around and walked away without looking back, choosing my own direction. At the end of the path, beneath the golden banquet lights, stood Lauren Mitchell. She leaned casually against the staircase railing, wearing a tailored dress that complemented every angle of her figure. As soon as she heard my footsteps, her cold, reserved gaze softened into something warm and gentle. In that moment, I thought I was lucky after all. Further away, I caught fragments of a conversation. A voice laced with bitterness and desperation said, "Miss Lauren, you made me fall back into this mess with Lily Evans. Now I've been banned and left with nothing. You can't just walk away from it all." The response was calm and sharp. "I only showed you a choice. What you did with it was entirely your own." There was a pause, the tone turning warning, icy. "Watch your mouth. Or else." After the call ended, the woman turned, her heels clicking softly on the tile floor. She walked over, leaned down, and gently wrapped her arms around the man sleeping nearby, brushing a kiss across his forehead. Her voice was low, slightly raspy with exhaustion. "I'm tired." Her eyes were curved with a smile, her tone soft as a lullaby. "All right. Go to sleep, that's enough for today."